Hi there. Hi there. Good morning.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
How have you been getting on this last month?
Good. I'm glad I finally got to join. I just got so busy last month.
What were you up to?
Oh, just working, but that's good. It's good to have work.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yep.
Oh, there's Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Morning, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I just went for a run and it's super hot, so
Oh
forgive the way I look.
man, I remember what that was like going outside to run. Been a
Oh,
while.
can you go out to run? You can't do that or
So there's a new what they call Piqui Cédula, which is you can go out according to your document number,
oh, okay.
and it's a lot more flexible now than it was. But we're just kind of keeping our fingers crossed and seeing if Medellin decides to allow like all business sectors to open, or if they're gonna just kind of open it by areas because we really don't know yet.
Yeah, yeah. We're starting to open up a little bit, but I've heard that, the epicenter of the virus really now is settled in Brazil and kind of it's really hitting South America and Central America
Yeah.
more so as we're easing up, you all are getting hit a little bit harder.
Well, yeah, and Colombia is still not a part of that, so I think that they
Okay.
want that's why they're being a little bit cautious. That they don't want to end up going down the same route that Brazil and Peru and whatnot have gone down.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's so difficult here because a lot of people just don't have the luxury of staying at home and social distancing. I mean,
Right.
they lived in super closely packed neighborhoods
Right.
where
Yeah.
everybody basically spends half the time in the street because it's hot, and you go to shop in like a cramped kind of local market where there are tons of people all kind of on top of one another. So like the idea of social distancing like you can do in New Zealand or Iceland or these other places where they've had great success, it's a different world, literally.
Yeah, I lived in Santiago for a year and also in Spain. And yeah, you just live it's apartment living, you're all on top of each other and I never spent time at home. You live on the streets. And so the idea of staying at home is really what? I just sleep there. I don't it's just
Yeah, I mean, especially here, since some people's apartments are like a shoebox with a bed in it, basically. I mean,
yeah.
there are neighbors below. They just converted their garage into an apartment. I
Wow.
mean, and it's literally just a garage.
Oh,
But
man.
they've put a kitchen in there. There's space for a bed, and there's a bathroom, and that's it. I mean, and can you imagine, like, being stuck in that for
No, I
God knows how
can't.
many weeks in the heat as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, crazy.
There we
Crazy
go.
times.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll just see how we go. But I'm feeling optimistic, cautiously. We'll see how we
Well,
go.
good. I hope I hope it goes that way for all of us, right? Because we're all
Yeah, indeed.
really want to get back to our lives. So,
Don't we just? Hi, Tori and Helen. How are you both doing?
Hello.
good.
Well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah. So, um, right, studying together Spanish. Okay. So I think there may be a couple more people joining us, so I'll just, as and when, let them participate. But the idea, I think, for this month was almost kind of going back to basics, certainly in this first class. I think we spent a lot of the last 4 weeks expanding our language, adding new ideas, finding out how to kind of get more complex. And I think it sort of led people down into this path where they got so technical and so complicated with their language that things ended up just kind of grinding to a halt in the middle of trying to, teach asana. So the idea today is to try and look for that sense of fluidity and ease and rhythm as we teach, right? Which I think you'd all agree is something so essential in a yoga class, having that sense of things flowing a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me share my screen.
I just wanted to say, Tori, in particular, with the class that you taught the last time, I really found that it was helpful for just keeping things simple for me anyway. I mean, aside from everything else, Andrew gave you props for it, but I wanted to personally as well.
That's really sweet. Thanks. Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah, it was just, you do this, and then we can get into the fancy stuff later.
Right. So I wanted to use the example of Utthita Trikonasana to sort of segue into this. And these were some cues that I wrote from our teacher training, and they're pretty technical. So I just wanted to acknowledge like how technical that you can be, and then to find a way of simplifying it. So I started this posture from star pose, which is arms stretched out, hands parallel to the floor, feet separated to the width of the hands. So you look like a star, basically, and it's just an easy way to come into this. So from star pose, pivot the leading foot forwards. Note that for some practitioners, a shorter base is more comfortable and that they may need to keep their feet in, step their feet in a little. Keep a watchful eye on the tracking of the front knee as the back hip opens. Keep externally rotating the leading thigh and pressing into the base of the big toe as you open the back hip. The aim is to keep natural curvature in the lower back. Lift the leading arm parallel to the floor and lean the torso forward, creating length on both the upper and lower side body. The hips and shoulders should stay on the same plane. Bring the lower hand onto the block, shin, ankle, or floor, and raise the other hand to the ceiling, creating a straight line from hand to hand. Avoid collapsing in the chest to reach the floor. Revolve the navel upwards and open the chest, creating a lifting sensation through the core. Rotate the lower bicep externally, bringing the shoulder away from the ear, and then the gaze can be at the upper hand or directly forward if it's more comfortable. Woof! Well, I would never use all of those cues when I were teaching a pose, right? I mean, life's just not long enough to do that kind of cueing in yoga. It's way overcomplicated, and I think you risk just totally overwhelming your students. So what I wanted to propose to you is the following. The first thing that I would like you to do in any of these postures is to identify these really key actions in the pose and make it maybe 3 or maybe 4 absolutely key actions. So for you all, I mean, I've got my own answer here, but for you all, what are the key actions if you had to select 3 in triangle?
Spreading the legs.
Okay.
Leaning toward a certain side.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the space between the feet, the straightening of the legs with the micro bend,
Mm-hmm.
and then the extension of the side body to tilt.
Okay. Anyone else?
So I usually get into a triangle from reverse triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say hinge forward as far as you can, right? Before tick-tocking your arms to 6 and 12, and then broaden through your collarbones to kind of open up. So there's like the first 3 things that I would say. And then there's sort of the micro bend your front knee, wrap your lower hip tip in, your top hip tip out, all those little things, but those are sort of my 3 things to get them. I mean, I would say there's 3, I try to go with 3 cues to get them into the pose, and then 3 cues to deepen the pose.
Yeah.
And then I try to leave it at that, because you're right, it gets too wordy and you lost people anyway. So.
And I think the other thing that's worth acknowledging is that you can always refine the posture depending on what you see, right? So you can use your 3 kind of essential cues to bring people into the pose. And then you might think, okay, everybody's collapsing on their lower side body. So what I need to say is lengthen the right side of the body. Or you might see that people are kind of crunching their shoulders. So you might want to talk about, stacking one shoulder or using a block to get elevation through the torso. So that's always, I think, a really useful way to approach cueing, is to think about your 3 most useful things and then refine them based on observation. So for me, well, when I was preparing this morning, I identified the following actions. I wanted to talk about the base and the position of the feet, lengthen the side body, support for the lower hand, and the extension of the upper arm. And those were when I was thinking about it, the 4 things that I came to. So once I've identified the most important actions, what am I going to do next? I'm going to find the Spanish verbs that identify these actions, okay? So for each of those, I'm going to choose one, maybe two verbs, okay? So for Trikonasana, a good verb for talking about the base and the position of the feet is alinear, to align. Alargar is lengthen the side body. And I just wanted to acknowledge for a moment that we cannot use alcanzar here. What does alcanzar mean in Spanish? Anyone?
It means to reach.
It is to reach, but not reach as we know it in English yoga. When we're using the word reach in English yoga, what are we talking about?
We're talking about stretching up, right? Or stretching down. So
yeah, we're talking about an extension, a stretch. What we talk about when we talk about reach in Spanish is the ability to actually touch something. So if you say reach for the ceiling, people might end up wandering down the hall and getting a step ladder and climbing up it so they can actually touch the ceiling. Do you see what I mean? So reach in Spanish, alcanzamos, suggests that you're actually going to be able to put your hand on whatever it is you're reaching towards. Okay? So don't use the verb alcanzar here. All right, so support for the lower hand, apoyar. And finally, extension of the upper arm, extender. Okay? So do you see how for each action, I've selected a verb? Pretty simple, no? Now, when I've got a verb, I can use the breath plus verb plus object plus direction formula. So I basically use those verbs to make a sentence. Now, I actually haven't put the breathing in here, but you can if you want. So let's take alinear. Alineamos. And I'm going to assume that the right foot is forward. El talón del pie derecho con el arco del pie izquierdo. Okay, so again, I'm assuming that people have already got their feet into the right position and that their legs are straight. If they aren't, then obviously you might need to cue that as well. All right, good. Next, alargar. Alargamos el costado derecho. So that's the underside of your body. And for me, I think if people are generally lengthening the underside of the body in Trikonasana, they're going to lengthen the upper side of the body as well. Like you can't really do one without doing the other. So that's a useful verb. Apoyar. Apoyamos la mano en la espinilla o en un bloque. All right? So I'm talking about supporting the lower hand. Support the lower hand on the shin or on a block. Extendemos el brazo izquierdo hacia el techo. And that's it. Those are my 4 super, super simple cues. Questions so far? Okay. So what comes next? Once I feel confident, I can do what Jackie said and start to add a bit more technical detail in there, okay? So again, when I was brainstorming this posture, I thought, okay, for technical detail, I'm going to talk about pressing into the base of the big toe and rotating the leading knee outwards. That's to stop that inward kind of rotation that happens when people start to open their hips. Open the chest and stack the shoulders. Gaze either towards the floor or look upwards towards the hand. Okay? And then again, I go through the same process. I find the Spanish verbs. So, presionar for press and rotar for rotate. Open the chest, abrir, and alinear to stack. And then finally to gaze, mirar. So there I've got my verbs. And again, I want to use breath plus verb plus object plus direction. So, presionamos la base del dedo gordo en la colchoneta. So press the base of the big toe into the mat. Y rotamos hacia afuera la rodilla delantera. Rotate outwards your leading knee. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
Question?
Yeah, a quick question, and maybe it's over thinking it. Mirar, like in English, there's sort of a hard gaze and a soft gaze
Okay.
that you might want to communicate. Can mirar be either of those? You understand my question?
Yeah, mirar is just a gaze. So, I mean, you'd have
Okay.
to provide additional language if you wanted to.
But you don't need to. But what my question really is, you don't need to. This would be sufficient so that people aren't
Right.
feeling they need to focus in on something.
Not really. I mean, I think that's a whole kind of area you might need to address separately. But I think mirar is a verb that could mean really anything.
Okay, it can mean a soft gaze is really my
Sure.
question.
For sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I got it.
Delantera. What is delantera again?
Yeah. So delantera means front. Okay. Delantera is front, and trasera, Trasera, is back. So la rodilla delantera, the front knee, la rodilla trasera, the back knee.
I feel like I'm always saying in la frente. Is one a better, more, I don't know, sounds more correct?
Yes, delantera.
Okay.
Sounds much better.
Okay.
Yeah? Because it's an adjective. Del frente is just a phrase that you kind of say of the front, and it sounds pretty, I think, inelegant in Spanish. So, I mean, people will probably understand you, but I don't think it's what native Spanish speakers would say.
So delantera y what was the backward?
Trasera, Trasera. Yeah, it's in your Spanish handout. If you look under the page of useful adjectives and adverbs, you'll find it there. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, about the order, because of rotamos hacia afuera, la rodilla delantera, like my gut would switch, like if I was translating that, I would say rotamos la rodilla delantera hacia afuera. Like I would switch the order now.
So that would be what you would call the natural word order, is what you have said. Rotamos la rodilla delantera hacia afuera. And the reason that I've put hacia afuera in this slightly unnatural place is that it puts emphasis there, right? So you'll notice with a lot of languages, when you start to change word order, think about poetry in English. If you start to put a particular word out of its normal sequence at the beginning of a line, it sort of throws a lot of emphasis and attention onto that word, right? And so it's the same here, rotamos hacia afuera. The attention is on the outward part of the movement there. Yeah? Good. Abrimos el pecho, so that's your opening the chest, y alineamos el hombro izquierdo sobre el derecho. So there's your stacking the shoulders. I've said align the left shoulder over the right. Yeah? So again, they don't have a particular word that is to stack in Spanish, or I mean, I suppose that they do, but they don't use it for yoga. So you want to talk about aligning, yeah? And then finally, miramos hacia el suelo, so towards the floor, o hacia la mano izquierda, up towards the left hand. So those are your two gaze options. So those are my technical refinements. Those are the technical detail that I might want to add in that posture. And so if we combine the two, we get the following. So first of all, alineamos el talón del pie derecho con el arco del pie izquierdo. Presionamos la base del dedo gordo en la colchoneta y rotamos hacia afuera la rodilla delantera. Alargamos el costado derecho, apoyamos la mano en la espinilla o en un bloque. Abrimos el pecho y alineamos el hombro izquierdo sobre el derecho. Extendemos el brazo izquierdo hacia el techo y miramos hacia el suelo o hacia la mano izquierda. Voila. So that's 7 cues. That's quite a lot, yeah? So my advice to you all is only go as far as those 7 cues when you're feeling really, really comfortable with your initial 3 or 4, Yeah. So, volunteer, please. Who would like to volunteer? Tori, you're making a beautiful face at the camera. I'm going to pick you.
I knew it. Fine.
Okay. So, Tori, I want you to think about Warrior 2 pose. And I want you to freestyle in English 3 or 4 cues to come into Warrior 2.
So if we have right foot forward, left foot back, I would say
That's what I'm doing that, yeah.
pivot your left toes towards the left edge of your mat while keeping your right toes forward. Bend your right knee on top of your right ankle. And if we're coming up from like a low lunge, inhale, cartwheel your arms open to a T.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's literally it. That's great. So Tori talked first of all about her base, the positioning of the feet. Then she talked about the positioning of the knee. Then she talked about creating the right shape in the chest and the right shape in the arms. And so that's it, really. Because remember that we're not going to be able to be as fluid in Spanish as we are in English. And that's okay. Yeah? So we just need to identify what are those 3 key cues. So if you could repeat those for me one more time, or an approximation. It doesn't need to be exact.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Spin your left foot to the left edge of your mat while pointing your right toes forward. Bend into your right knee.
One at a time. So I'm just going to write these down. So spin the left foot. So we're going to talk about the position of the feet. Good. What comes next?
Bend into your right knee. Keep it on top of your right ankle.
Good. Then?
Rotate your arms open to a T with your shoulders on top of your hips.
Good. And that's it, no?
Mm-hmm.
So what I've got is the position of the feet, the position of the knee, opening the arms and bringing them to shoulder height. Okay? So those are my 3 cues here. And I'm going to think now, what are the verbs that I can use in Spanish? So what's a useful verb for talking about positioning of the feet in Spanish?
Colocamos.
Could be colocar, but that suggests that they're not already on the floor, right? Because if the word colocar means to put or to place, it might be because we're stepping them forward from downward facing dog. So if you're in down dog, Casey, that might be a good time to use the word colocar, yeah? But let's assume that we've already got the feet in either star position or warrior position already. What might be a good verb?
Alinear.
Alinear. Good. Okay, the position of the knee. What kind of verbs might you be good for talking about the positioning of the front knee?
Flexionar.
Flexionar. Yeah. Anything else? I think maybe if you hadn't already used it in the first one, alinear might again be a good one. We do often talk about stacking the knee over the ankle, right? Good. Finally, opening the arms and bringing them to shoulder height. So, any good verbs here in Spanish?
Could you?
Abrir. Yeah, anything else?
Extender.
Extender, nice. Elevar, maybe, to raise. Yeah, because again, the verb cartwheel doesn't really exist as far as I know in Spanish, so good. Okay, so once we've got those verbs, we can start again building them into full sentences. So just as I did for Trikonasana, it's a kind of a similar positioning for the feet, right? So alineamos el talón del pie derecho con el arco del pie izquierdo. Yeah? Okay, who can help me with flexionar? What are we going to bend?
La rodilla derecha.
Good.
Sobre el talón derecho.
Talón.
derecho.
And we could say, y la alineamos sobre el talón. So the word la there is the word it in Spanish. So bend the right knee and align it, la, over el talón, sobre el talón, over the heel. Finally, open, extend, or elevate the arms. Can anyone help me with the sentence there?
Abrimos el pecho o las clavículas.
Nice. So let's keep at the end of the sentence. So why don't we say extendemos los brazos? And then we could even talk about shoulder height. A, la. Can anyone help me here?
A la altura de los hombros.
Got it. That's it. Extendemos los brazos a la altura de los hombros y abrimos el pecho. And those are our 3 cues for Warrior 2. Reasonably straightforward, no? Great. And at this point, you could start talking once more about the slightly more refined cues, yeah? If you wanted to refine things further, and that depends on, again, how you teach that posture, really. Okay, so some final pieces of advice. So complex postures, yeah? Postures that are quite challenging, I think, for us to cue in a foreign language. They often have multiple movements of our limbs away from the anatomical position. So the anatomical position is what you're in when you're in Shavasana or Tadasana, right? So if you think about what Ardha Matsyendrasana looks like, you know, the seated twist on the floor, you've got bent knees, you've got hip adduction, you've got a twist, you've got different positions for the arms. Think about bound side angle as well, or think about things like Ardha Chandra Chapasana. That's half moon pose with a back bend. It's like kind of a combination between dancers and half moon pose, right? So what do you do in these contexts? You're going to need to rely a lot on visual cueing. What does that mean? It means you performing the asana and people watching you. Because there's no way, in the beginning anyhow, you're going to be confident enough to do all of those movements and cue all of those movements, yeah? I mean, if I think about how would I do that in English? If I come from Dandasana into Ardha Matsyendrasana, it might be, okay, bend the left leg and bring the heel towards the right glute, lift the right leg and place the ankle outside the left thigh. Good, make sure both sit bones are pressing equally into the floor. Inhale, create length through the side body, lift the right arm, bring the right hand behind the hips and embrace the side of the thigh to the chest. Woo! It's a mouthful getting into that posture, right? So how do we do that in Spanish? Well, we just need to choose 3 movements, yeah, that you can cue simply and do the rest visually. Just get people to watch you and go up and help them if necessary. And as you grow in confidence, you can then really begin to expand your cues a little bit more. Questions so far?
I'm thinking of the half moon that you're illustrating here. I think the instructions also, I'm open for disagreement, but it seems to me that if I were cueing half moon, I'd want to tell them they need to bend the front leg in order to be able to get anywhere. That, like, you can't just talk to where they end up, because so that the three movements to cue verbally, let's say, even though you want to end up with the straight leg, you, I guess I would want to say you're going to bend that knee in order to eventually, and then eventually you're going to be able to straighten that knee, but you need to bend the knee in order to be able to lengthen your body and bring your hand down to the ground, etc.
So I've got, well, what I would say to that is, let me see if you can all see me here. You've got your students in I don't know, let's say this position, right? And you want them to come forward. I think it would be enough for you to say, in English as well, bring the weight into the front foot and lift the back leg. And people are going to instinctively know. I mean, people know how to move their bodies, more or less, right? They're going to know that they're going to need to, and especially if they see you doing it, you don't need to cue every single little micro movement. It can be tempting, but I think we need to give people credit as well, that people know how to bring their weight into their front foot. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing that would be helpful for what I'm thinking is that if I'm telling them that you're bringing your foot weight into the front foot, I'm also in front of them bending my front knee and then lengthening the leg in order to get my hand down to the ground, so that they are seeing that that's my technique for getting there, let's say. So they're going to figure out their own. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think, oh dear, what's happened with my computer here? Ah, there we go. Yeah, so I think, as I say, you have to be very visual. So demonstrate to people what it looks like, and then just use these simplified phrases. And as you get more confident and you have these phrases at your fingertips, then you can begin to get a little bit more technical. But I think my main concern is that we were getting too technical at the end of last month, and we just need to take things back. So what am I going to do? I'm going to divide you now into a couple of groups, and you're going to pick 3 different postures, okay? And you're going to go through this process. So what was the process again? Can somebody remind me?
3 basic moves.
Or
3
4.
Yeah. 3 or 4. 3 verbs to go with them. The breath, potentially. Or I don't remember. We talked about the breath, but then you...
Then you plug it into the language formula.
Exactly. So identify your most important actions in English, whatever, doesn't matter. Then find the Spanish verbs that identify those actions, and then use that format that we've been practicing with to cue people into the pose. Okay? So I'm going to give everyone around about 20 minutes now. If and when you've done the simplified cues and you've finished all of that, by all means at that point go back and start working on some slightly more technical refinements. Does that make sense? Yeah, but the idea here is that I want you to focus on making it simple first, and then maybe building it into something slightly more technical afterwards. Any questions before we get going? Okay, so let me divide you into a couple of groups. Okay, so whenever you're ready, you can click on your rooms and get going.
Mm-hmm. And then reach your arms or extend your arms.
I'll say, I'll say, keep the bend in your front knee. And reach your arms overhead.
Oh, yeah. All right, cool.
All right.
So so for the verbs, I mean, you could say colocar for like to place the back heel.
Mm-hmm.
Or what was that word for rooting?
Enraizar.
Enraizar, yeah. I don't know.
I think I like colocar better because we're just
Yeah.
saying place your heel down.
Yeah.
And then maybe when they're really there, we'd ask them to root in. And
Yeah.
then engage your abs, I would say activar.
Activar, yeah. And if you're gonna say keep front knee bent, that would be like mantener, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then extender or your brazos. Extendar
Extender or elevar, yeah.
or elevar. Okay. Okay, so making sentences. So first,
So, mhm.
oh, go ahead.
Say, colocamos el talón trasero en el mat.
Uh-huh. Mantenemos la rodilla delantera flexionada. How would you say that?
Yeah, do you want to do, so I guess I would say first engaging, activamos or activa los abdominales para levantar el torso.
Activamos.
Begin the position of chair, hips back, instead of explaining with your feet. I mean, most people would know.
Say that again?
So instead of like explaining where your feet are positioned when you're getting into chair, just saying, like we begin in sitting in chair. I mean, as if you're with hips back.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't necessarily have to explain the placement of the feet. I don't know.
I guess I feel that one of the earlier lessons where before we got all complicated, for standing poses, we want to establish a foundation, a strong foundation. And I think that I actually think we should be, because they could be just hanging around their mat. And it would be a good idea to tell them where to put their, that you want your feet lined up beside each other.
Yeah, and this is super technical, but I in English will teach too. Feet will come together, but if your low back is telling you no, then place your feet at hips width distance. I feel like feet is like vital to chair.
Okay.
Yeah. So
depends, right?
Yeah.
If you've already talked about feet in Tadasana, then you don't really need to sort of mention them again in chair pose. So in that case, Casey is absolutely right that that the important thing is the positioning of the hips. But if you haven't talked about feet at that point, I mean, I've definitely seen people in chair where their feet are kind of turned out to about a sort of 45-degree ankle and their knees follow, and it ends up looking more like Malasana than chair. So I think the answer to that question is, have you already drawn attention to the feet previously, or do you feel that you need to do it again? Let's assume you've done Tadasana.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You can maybe refer back to it, keeping your feet firmly on the ground, do the thing.
Andrew, what's your first cue for when you have your parallel underneath your hips?
What was that? Sorry, Casey, you cut out there for a moment.
When you do start in Tadasana, for instance, for going into your sun salutations, like I usually do, what is the best phrase for those feet? Because I need to get out of the kolo kamo, so I'm not placing your feet, and you just corrected me. So what is your cue when you start in the sun salutation?
Yeah. I think I might often use the verb separar, because usually, I mean, my chair pose, I usually practice it with my feet apart at hip width. So I would usually say, separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas. Yeah? But usually I would cue that into Tadasana first. So I'd bring people into Tadasana, separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas. And if I wanted to really make something out of it, I might say, subimos los dedos y activamos el arco. So raise the toes and engage your arch. But I mean, again, we want to avoid getting too bogged down in detail here. So let's just say, separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas. Yeah?
But that's really good, because if I am doing sun salutations, getting that initial setup just in Tadasana with the placement of the feet and then like keeping the flow.
Yeah, so it might be one of those three things that you say in Tadasana. You might say, separate the feet to the hip width. You might talk about engaging the abdomen and rolling the shoulders up, down, and back. And those are your three simple cues in Tadasana, right? And then you can come into chair pose with another three simple cues. Does that make sense? So maybe for your group, you want to do Tadasana before you go into chair pose. Does that make sense?
So it's I'm still not used to using the Sanskrit words, but Utkatasana is half squat, or postura de silla.
Postura de la silla, yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to leave you to it.
Okay, so if we go back to Tadasana, we've already got the first one, separamos los pies en la línea de cadera. Is that what he said? Something like that?
It was something about ancho de, I haven't memorized all the phrases. Ancho de, the width. Ancho must be width. De las caderas.
Ooh, yeah.
De las caderas. For once I got the gender and the number. Okay.
Check the group chat. It's in there.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So helpful.
A lo ancho de las caderas.
Do we want to go back and get the Tadasana stuff out of the way, or do we want
Yeah,
to go?
I just cut and pasted that up, so for that reason.
So we can say like begin standing at, or do we already have that?
No, we could just say separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas, and that's the feet for Tadasana.
Okay. I think we need like a little bit more to just say that like we're standing at the top of our mat. So I think we could say begin standing at the top of your mat and then go and do separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas. And then we can go into the chair.
Empezamos a la something front.
Casey, what do you think?
I mean, I normally just say en el frente del mat.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if that's not eloquent enough for body parts.
I don't usually say en el frente. It's something that everybody keeps on going back to, and it's el inicio. Yeah, el inicio.
Okay, so empezamos al inicio de la colchoneta, or what do you?
Empezamos al inicio de la,
de la colchoneta, and then separamos los pies a lo ancho De las caderas. So now we have the feet on the ground and the instructions and everything.
And then a really good cue about, you know, los dedos del pie. I mean, I normally mention something about placing all 4 sides of your feet, you know, or
I
rooting
do
into
that too, but I think that maybe let's see what the other 2
3
things.
key actions, no more. 3 key actions, and that's it. So you've separated your feet, that's one of them done. You've only got 2 left. You probably want to talk about the pelvis or the abdomen, and you might want to talk about the shoulders. So again, avoid getting bogged down in technical detail for now.
Okay.
So like to keep it simple, I would say length, well, I would say, but I don't think we should say, but I would say something like lengthen your, keep your knees soft and lengthen your sacrum at the back. You might want to do it with the front, but one way or another, the hip area needs to be addressed. And then the final thing would be drop your shoulders.
Yeah, definitely like a relax of the shoulders, but something around like the pelvis, the abdomen, you can say just as simple as like engage your belly. And that will have, I ideally have people just drawing up and in and naturally engaging the pelvis, or something like a tilt your tailbone down, like something like just something like really quick and simple like that. One of those 2.
Mentionamos el sacrum. That means tuck your tailbone. It means tuck it down.
Okay.
Your not the coccyx, the sacrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that accomplishes it.
Mantenamos I think it's sacro.
Sacro?
It's the sacrum.
Mantenemos el sacro.
Sacro, el sacro.
Yeah, I got the L.
Masculine, el sacro.
No, I know. I just.
No. That wasn't me. That was actually me telling myself. So don't worry, Helen.
Mencionamos el sacro. Yeah, so that goes down, and then the shoulders.
Relajamos los hombros. Hacia abajo, maybe if we want to.
Yeah.
Good. Cool. Okay. So we got the standing part down. So okay, we're coming from chair standing, and
oh no, we started with standing, so their feet are already okay.
Yes. So that means we can go straight into bending the knees, weight into the hips, arms up, all that jazz. So do we want to keep going in English with the other postures, or do we want to move over to Spanish? What do you guys think?
Well, we did it with Spanish because we could, and if we can, let's do it.
Okay. Okay, so flexionamos las rodillas.
Yes. Flexionamos las rodillas.
And so how do you want to communicate putting your weight into your hips, your weight into your heels? It's like
mencionamos suelo is weight.
Suelo, wait, it's
no, that's not it. That's the mat.
It's like,
so you're bending your knees. Well, do you think it would be helpful to say keeping your spine long?
No, I think that's starting to get technical, because we just like, in just going over like the basic actions of chair, it's like bent knees and the weight is back. Is you want those big muscle groups supporting you.
Yeah. Mencionamos.
I just feel like there's a better word than mencionamos. I don't know.
I do
find it.
I agree. No, keeping, it's move. You're actually.
It's supporting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the pose here. You're keeping your. What can you can say the hips? Those are caderas.
Yes. So we know it's las caderas.
Abajo, back. No, that's down. Backward is. Adelante is forward. I'm so bad with the directions. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, we could say bend your knees, lower your hips.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say shift your weight back, but I don't know how to say that. And I don't know like the proper word for like shift or,
Oh, I think we're gonna have to get less fancy than shift. Even not that
you know,
shift.
but like that simple, like, you know, like there's got to be a simple Spanish verb for it, you know? So do you want to say,
Sentimos, you can feel
feel your weight
feel-
over like in your hip, in your heels? That's a good one.
yeah.
So, okay. I think especially since we're going into chair from standing, I think bajamos las caderas.
Could we say sentamos?
Yeah, we're feeling the weight on the hip, on the heels, toward the
Yeah.
heels.
I love that. So I'd say flexionamos las rodillas, bajamos las caderas, lower your hips, and you want to say feel.
Sentimos.
What's weight? We
I
could say
feel
body, like el cuerpo. Or you knew the word for weight, didn't you, Helen?
I thought it was. I'm gonna look it up.
Peso? Isn't peso like weight?
So to jump in here for a moment, sorry, I'm kind of listening in the background. What are we trying to talk about with the weight? Is it a totally necessary, 100% necessary part of cueing people into this pose?
So bajamos las caderas might be sufficient, Andrew?
I think for now it is. And then I think that talking about people's weight is something that you can talk about in the technical refinements, yeah, once people are comfortable. So you might want to say something like bring the weight into the heels, but later, right, as a part of a technical refinement. What I want you to do now is just 3 cues to get people into chair. For me, it is bend the knees or sink the hips, or maybe both. Yeah, raise the chest and extend the arms. And that's literally it.
Yeah. So we got the arms up and the chest open was our next cue. So yeah, we can do vamos.
Yeah, I even think that the chest open part is also falls under that like technical cue part. So I think just elevamos los brazos hacia el cielo does it.
Hacia al cielo?
El cielo?
Mm.
That is, okay.
Because otherwise you're saying towards to the ceiling.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hacia, take care of that. Got it.
Hacia
el cielo.
Hacia del cielo, de la cielo.
El cielo.
Hacia already means towards. So all you need is the word the,
El cielo.
Mm-hmm.
Which has an O, so it's masculine.
El cielo is masculine. Yeah.
Okay, so that's that one. So the next is, so now we're going to, well, we were going to do forward fold.
I still think we could, because to get.
I'll usually say that, so they're really
Yeah.
with their heel as they go back.
I would say that too. Extendemos el talón izquierdo.
How are we doing, ladies?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
We're almost done.
So once you've done your simple cueing, then think about what you might be refining in the posture. Yeah.
Okay.
So think about those technical refinements, and you can add those in for each of your poses. All right.
Awesome. Okay. So we could say extendemos el talón izquierdo hacia detrás.
Yep. And then enraizamos. What do you say? Enraizamos en or enraizamos?
I think I say enraizamos la pierna derecha.
You just say okay. Oh yeah, la pierna derecha en el mat.
En la madre, en la tierra.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. you want to go back and find some
Yeah.
refinement cues?
Sure.
Okay.
So like we assume we've already put them in the Warrior One, and then just give like 3 refining.
Yeah. So what would
Okay.
you say in Warrior One typically?
I typically say something like, and I hear the teachers in Spanish say it a lot, where they're like, "Cuadramos las carreras," you
Square
know?
your hips? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I like that one. So I'd say like, "Cuadramos las carreras hacia," would you say like hacia adelante, I guess, or hacia delantera?
Hacia adelante, I think. I like that. So I would say relax. I'll typically say, let's see, it's kind of starting from the ground up, right? So square your hips. Um, what else would I say in Warrior One? Relax your shoulders
Yeah,
always, because people don't like that, you know.
yeah.
So relajamos los hombros.
Mm-hmm. And you could say I mean, you could always add something like, if you want, look up to the sky, or,
Yeah.
or we could add something in front of all this about like pressing equally into both feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what would be good to know? Because in Warrior One, I always say something about like, press the knife edge of your back foot into the mat.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to think of more about like a base kind of cue.
Yeah.
So start with your base, then kind of move up. So how do you say that?
I know. Like, empujamos like something about like el parte del pie, or something, like what, like the part
Yeah,
of your.
you see the knife edge of your foot, but
I know.
how would you say?
It's probably one of those things that like you don't translate, like they just call it something else,
Yeah, la parte empujamos.
or like the side of your foot. Like, would that make sense if you said the side of your back
I know
foot?
we talked about it in class before, like back in April, but I don't
Yeah.
remember. Empujamos la parte. I'm just gonna see if I can find my old notes really quick, but I don't know. Maybe just ask him. Empujamos
Yeah.
la parte.
First, now we can just say empujamos la pie izquierdo, or izquierda,
Yeah.
en el mat.
Empujamos.
Because I use that one all the time, the knife edge of the foot. I'd be good to know what that is.
Yeah, but let's ask him that, because I use that a lot too. Warrior too, right? Also, because it helps you open up your front hip. Empezamos el pie izquierdo en el mat. Square your hips y relajamos los hombros. I think those are three great refining cues. Okay. And then for eagle, you cross your right arm under, transfer weight, lift your left leg, cross it over your right.
I probably would start with something about like sitting deeply, like, sitting more deeply into the pose, or lowering the hips more, or bending the knees more.
Yeah, I like, I'll often say sit lower in your chair, because I'll often come into it from chair pose, you know, not always.
Yeah.
But, so sit a little bit lower.
I've heard people say like bajamos las caderas, like lower the hips.
Yeah, bajamos las caderas. Obviously, bajamos las caderas and then mantener or alinear los hombros sobre las caderas, so your back is straight,
Okay.
because people are always hunched over, you know.
Yeah. Los hombros sobre las caderas. And then I always say something about like lengthening the spine, or maybe like lifting up more on the elbows or the hands.
Yeah, I like that. I'll say lift your elbows to the height of your shoulders, to shoulder height.
Yeah, that's good.
So elevamos los codos
Codos a la altura de los hombros.
Yeah. I like that.
All right.
And then
So for the last one, I would say something about let's see, which we've got the left leg reaching back. So I
Yeah.
usually say something about your left hip like facing down, or your like, you know, your left pinky toe facing down.
that's what I'll say too.
I mean, you could say again, like, cuadramos las caderas hacia el mat.
But I like that. I like the cue of, I'll say, draw your pinky toe down or point your pinky toe, because that does that motion.
Yeah.
To level your hips is what I'll say. Maybe that's too much, but
You're
would
sort
you
of
say-
like, oh, you could say rotate, like rotate your, rotamos. Well, how do you say pinky toe again? There was a word for it.
la meñique.
La
El
meñique.
meñique.
El meñique izquierdo hacia el mat.
And this might be too much, but I would say para nivelar las caderas, to level your hips.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
What do you use the word for level?
Nivelar.
Nivelar.
Nivelar, N-I-V.
Okay. Las caderas.
To level. Las
And
caderas.
then I always say something about like, you know, extend or lengthen from your left heel, like all the way out through the top of your head, you know?
Yeah.
Like I wonder if you could say alargamos todo el cuerpo desde el talón izquierdo hacia la coronilla.
Yeah. Then I quite often cue to the core, right? So I'd say maybe activamos los abdominales.
Yeah.
I say activate your core to keep your torso lifted. So, I mean, I don't know if we want to say all of that, but, you know, activamos los abdominales para mantener el torso elevado. I don't know if that's too much.
Yeah, I think it works.
Mantener el torso elevado.
Cool.
I think this is awesome. You did a good
I
job.
think so too.
No, I liked doing these.
How did you get on, girls?
Awesome.
Really good.
Good. Excellent. Feeling comfortable with the simplified cues?
Yeah. And just FYI, I gotta leave 5 minutes early. I forgot to say.
No problem. Leave whenever you need to. Yeah, homework for today will be to write a few more postures in this simplified form and then expand on some technical detail. Okay?
Okay.
Right.
And,
So,
and you'll send us your notes as you always
as
do.
always, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you can all see my screen now, I imagine.
Mhm.
So let's start with the Casey, Helen, and Tori. So, what was the first posture that you chose in your sequence?
Tadasana.
Perfect. Good. Now let's just see. Okay. Tadasana. So, okay, let's start with you, Tori. What was the first cue that you gave? Oh, sorry, let's say in English, what were the 3 things that you focused on in Tadasana?
Start at the front of your mat.
Mm-hmm.
Separate your feet and like shoulder, like weight over your shoulder, your hips,
Mm-hmm.
and like relax your shoulders.
Okay, perfect. So, go ahead and tell me how you cued to start at the beginning of the mat.
Empezamos al inicio de la colchoneta.
So, empezamos al. I'm not really sure about whether it's al or en el. To me, sounds better because empezamos al suggests start to the front of your mat as opposed to start at the front of your mat, which is empezamos en el inicio de la colchoneta. Good, okay.
Separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas.
Good, so it's separamos because it's separa, yeah, not separamos. So separamos los pies a lo ancho de
And
las
then-
caderas.
And then, well, I'll let you finish. Relajamos los hombros hacia abajo.
Yeah,
we had another
I'm not
we had another
sure
one in the
about
middle.
relajamos los hombros hacia abajo. As a cue, I feel that might get people to slouch in their shoulders.
Oh.
Whereas what we really want, I mean, this is just a personal thing from having, taught sort of yoga for a while. I really like to talk about rotating the shoulders up, back, and down, opening the chest. And I think that it's just, for me, it's a much more effective cue than quite often relax the shoulders. People just kind of do, like as if they're kind of hunching in front of a computer, much like I'm doing right now. So what I might say is, rotamos los hombros hacia las orejas, hacia atrás y abajo.
I did miss a cue. I did miss something else that we had written down that comes before the shoulders.
Tell me.
Mantenemos el sacro.
Okay.
As a way.
So what you've just told me is keep the sacrum ...
Okay.
Okay.
That was my bad, my verb. Wrong.
Well, it's fine, but you need to have some kind of adjective there to describe how we're going to keep the sacrum.
Okay.
I had thought, I was looking for the word and I got this one and it's the wrong one for length, tucking it under, lengthening it downward.
Ah.
And I know we have a word for it and I couldn't remember the word. I thought this was it.
So I've been practicing a little bit recently in Spanish with my teachers, and a phrase that I've heard that I've really, really liked is alargamos el coxis hacia los talones. And for me, I don't know, it's a really visual way of describing tucking the tailbone. It's lengthen the tailbone towards the heels. And I think that it's a very effective way, instead of just saying tuck the pelvis, and people might not understand necessarily what a pelvic tuck might look like. Everybody can visualize bringing their coccyx down towards the ground. Does that make sense?
Yep. I was aiming for the same idea with the lengthening of the sacrum downward. So yeah.
Great. So those are really, really nice. Simple cues. Empezamos en el inicio de la colchoneta, separamos los pies a lo ancho de las caderas, alargamos el coxis hacia los talones, rotamos los hombros hacia las orejas, atrás y abajo. Y listo. Perfect. Okay. Casey, what posture came next?
Utkatasana.
Utkatasana. So I'm going to put Tadasana is montaña, and Utkatasana, what would that be? Silla. Okay. So I think you might need to come just a little bit closer to the microphone, Casey, because you're a little on the quiet side. So what in English were your most important cues here?
Oh, so we thought I think we started with sit the hips back.
Okay. Now, I want you to translate that into a very easy to understand action.
Well, we had ladies tell me out, sentamos las caderas, bajamos. What did we come up with for the first?
Sorry, I had written down flexionamos las rodillas.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
yeah, that's good. So let's in fact start with that. Flexionamos las rodillas. Okay. And then what Casey was saying, we can talk about lowering the hips. So what's the verb for to lower, Casey? Begins with a B.
Bajamos.
Yeah, bajamos. And then what's the word for the hips?
Las caderas.
Las caderas. Awesome. So flexionamos las rodillas y bajamos las caderas. Good. Okay. Well done. Helen, what comes next for you?
We had elevamos los brazos hacia el cielo. Los brazos, because I'm an idiot, but yeah.
And probably for Utkatasana, that's all you really need. Yeah?
That's all we had.
Yeah. Hmm?
That's what we had. That's all we had.
Perfect. All right. Great. Okay. Tori, let's come into the third posture that you talked about. What was it?
So to transition out of that, we were going to return forward fold pretty much. So return to stand and forward fold.
Okay. So we're going to be moving towards Uttanasana, which is sometimes called La Pinza, sometimes, which means a peg, because you look like a peg when you're forward folded, especially one of those old school wooden pegs. If you remember what those look like? Yeah. Okay. So how can we say that in Spanish then? Let's return to standing.
Well, we went a little bit. The two cues that we have is enderezamos las piernas.
Okay, why not? Enderezamos
las piernas, and then nos doblamos de las caderas. We're trying to say, and we fold from the hips.
Las piernas y nos doblamos desde las caderas.
Yeah.
Desde.
Desde.
No, desde means from.
Yeah.
Good. So again, I'm really, really liking this because you're giving yourself a simple and very solid base for your cueing, right? And if you decided, okay, we're in Uttanasana and I really want to refine things, at this point you can say, bend the knees a little bit, bring the chest against the thighs, find length through the spine, rotate the sit bones up towards the ceiling, feel the stretch in the hamstrings. And you can actually produce all of those extra cues, but you've given yourself the luxury that all your students are in the right position already, whether or not you decide to kind of go on and give all of those refinements. So this is exactly how I want you to approach your teaching in Spanish, is to simplify things first and then get into the technical detail kind of as and when necessary. All right? Great. So we'll just leave that there for a moment. We might come back to that if we've got time. And we're going to go across to group number 2. So Sarah May, what was the first posture that you chose?
We did Warrior 1.
Right. So when you were thinking about your Warrior 1, what position were you transitioning into Warrior 1 from?
So we assumed you would be in like a low lunge, you know.
Okay.
With your right foot forward already.
Okay, so the right foot is forward. Guerrero uno. Okay, so what were the key areas that you identified for your Warrior 1?
So the first thing was placing the back heel down on the mat.
Okay.
And then engaging the core to lift your torso. And then reaching the arms to the sky.
Yeah, interesting. I tend to engage my core after I've lifted my torso. I mean, that's just a personal thing. But generally speaking, I come up from high lunge, just put the hands on the hips, make sure that I've got my base right. So nice bend in my front knee, strongly activated back knee, then belly in, lower ribs in, raise the arms. Because I think the other risk is that if you get people to engage the torso too early, I don't know, maybe it gets lost. Maybe that's just personal opinion. I'm not sure. So, okay, so the back heel, raising the torso, and what was the final element?
Reaching the arms overhead.
Perfect, great. So how did you deal in Spanish with the base?
So we said, colocamos el talón trasero en el mat.
El talón, the back heel, el talón trasero.
Or you could say el talón izquierdo. Yeah.
En la colchoneta. Okay. And you could even talk about the angle here. So how might you say that, like at 45 degrees?
So, yeah, we didn't address that, but you could say, like, alineamos los dedos del pie. Like, I always say, like, hacia,
So I just give you a little tip to avoid, again, making it harder than it needs to be. So colocamos el talón del pie izquierdo en la colchoneta en 45 grados. Yeah, at 45 degrees.
En 45, okay.
And that's it. Yeah. And again, that way you just keep things nice and simple. People can always have a little look at your foot just to see what it looks like. Sometimes I actually, quite often Warrior One is one of those postures where I'll need to give up people individual attention.
Yeah.
Because people often, they don't just need to place their foot at 45 degrees, they actually need to bring their foot forwards and to the outside of their mat to be able to achieve that rotation of the hips towards the front. Anyway, let's just keep it simple. Colocamos el talón trasero en la colchoneta en 45 grados. Very nice. What comes next?
Well, this is where we said activamos los abdominales para subirnos o para subir.
Now, activamos el abdomen y elevamos el torso.
Abdomen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you just make it into two separate sentences, and again, you could even switch those round. Elevamos el torso y activamos el abdomen. So I mean, it's totally up to you which way round you do it. Very good, that works fine. What's the final cue?
Extendemos los brazos hacia el cielo.
Ya está. Okay, that's it. Again, we can talk about refinements in the posture. We could talk about traemos los muslos el uno hacia el otro y notamos cómo las caderas quedan paralelas a la colchoneta. You know, you could start sort of talking about these things, drawing the right hip towards the left and notice how your hips become squared to the mat. You could talk about llevamos las costillas hacia adentro, bring the ribs inwards. We could talk about rotamos los hombros hacia atrás y hacia abajo, abriendo el pecho. But anyway, there's plenty of things that we could go on to from there. Jackie, what was the next posture that you came to?
She's muted.
We did eagle pose.
Nice. So that's quite a are we transitioning to eagle from Warrior One?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. So
Alright.
I'm really keen to see how you did this. What were the key actions?
We were trying to keep it simple. So we know there's a lot more that can go into it. We were just trying to come up with really simple cues just to get you there, right? So anyway, so we begin with the arm. So cross your right arm under your left and unite your palms.
Okay.
Then transfer your weight to your right foot. Bring your left leg forward or lift your left leg and cross it over your right.
Okay.
Just to keep it simple.
Nice. Excellent. Let's do that then. So in Spanish.
So cruzamos el brazo derecho debajo del brazo izquierdo.
Good. So cruzamos el brazo derecho debajo del brazo izquierdo. I might even say por debajo.
Por debajo.
Right? Cruzamos el brazo derecho por debajo del... Yeah, por debajo means kind of underneath.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Y juntamos las palmas.
Very nice.
Then desplazamos el peso sobre el pie derecho.
Desplazamos el peso sobre el pie derecho. Okay.
Then llevamos la pierna izquierda hacia adelante.
Okay.
Y la cruzamos sobre la pierna derecha.
Nice. And that's it. That's all that's necessary. So again, we've got what could potentially be a pretty complex transition from Warrior One to Eagle, simplified into three very basic aspects. The arms, bringing the weight forwards, crossing the left leg over the right. And then again, you could talk more about the positioning of the weight. You could talk about alternatives for, you know, the arms if people have got tight shoulders. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's exactly what we want to be doing. Okay. Sarah, I don't know if you need to head off now.
I can do the last one real quick.
Awesome. Go ahead.
So from Eagle, we transitioned to Eagle Warrior 3 with Eagle arms.
Yeah. So
So-
Eagle Águila, beer here in Colombia, and Warrior 3, Guerrero 3. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we said maintaining the arm, like keeping the arms as they are was the first cue. And then unwinding or uncrossing your legs was the second cue. And then just pressing your left leg towards the back would be the third cue.
Okay.
So we said, mantenemos los brazos así, o como están.
Yeah, I think mantenemos la posición de los brazos.
Okay.
Sounds a little bit nicer, but yeah, mantenemos la posición de los brazos.
De los brazos.
Good. Okay.
Descruzamos las piernas y elevamos la rodilla izquierda.
Descruzamos las piernas. And what was the second part of that cue?
Y elevamos la rodilla izquierda.
Yes.
Is that just
Why not?
saying the same thing twice?
It is, I think. Yeah. I think you can probably just talk about extending the left leg backwards, no?
Yeah. Okay, so then we said extendemos la pierna izquierda hacia atrás o el talón izquierdo.
Hacia atrás. And I probably would want to mention maybe, because if you think about the position of the torso in Eagle, it's upright, and the position of the torso in Warrior 3 is parallel to the mat. So I might want to say something like extendemos la pierna izquierda hacia atrás y bajamos el torso paralelo a la colchoneta.
Okay, yeah.
And that just clears up any confusion there. Okay. And that's it, really. Good. I think you're all doing really, really excellent work with this. Now, our next meeting is in a week's time, right? Yes. So what I want you to do is to produce a short sequence, in this simplified form that we're all going to teach one another next time, okay?
Any particular number of postures or time length?
Totally up to you. Now, I mean, as always, just whatever is manageable for you. I think more important than the quantity is the way in which you produce the cues. Keeping things in this really simple, identifying the key movements, cueing those, and that's what's the focus for this particular part. Now, next time we're going to be having a look at making effective transitions between poses. So just like we looked at coming between Warrior 1 and Eagle pose, that was an effective transition. So how are we going to simplify the transitions for next time? Yeah? If any of you do feel that you would like to set up one-on-ones with me, it would be an opportunity to have a look at your language in a lot more detail, to give you sort of personalized feedback, maybe even to do a little bit of practice teaching. If that's something that would interest you, just give me a quick email. I'm reasonably flexible most days of the week at the moment. So just let me know.
Can you hear me?
Tell me, yeah.
I just have a question. So like at the end of this month, if I try to get, even if it's like a half-hour class, together, I kind of want it, like if I was to teach you, I kind of wanted to record it Would you be able, if we do like a private, could you help show me how to just record the video?
I can record it for you, Katie.
record
That's no problem. Yeah,
I won't be ready till the end of the month, but
no problem. Whenever. Okay. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you all in Andrea's classes as well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Guys.
Ciao for now.
Sorry, I have a question, and
Okay.
it's not anything that would give more people information unless they want to stick around for it. I had terrible sound and for Andrea's class, and I
Oh.
fixed my sound. Yeah, it's not the studio, I could tell, because afterward I fiddled around and there was some things that went off. So I'd like to do that class again. Is it amongst the ones that are on the website?
Unfortunately, Helen, it didn't get recorded. We had a technical issue with that, but as of Wednesday, hopefully, I can get Andrea to record those classes and pop them online so that you can rewatch them.
Yeah, I'll do another class instead. I was really having trouble hearing her, and
Yeah.
that's not the fault of her. It was the fault of my system. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.